Overview. The Master Warning System is the central reference point for aircraft system indications and comprises the Central Warning Panel, the Central Status Panel, the Overhead Panel. Attention is drawn to indications on the Central Warning Panel by attention getters on the glare shield and audio tones. The system uses DC power, and the warnings shown will still be available at the emergency, battery-only power level. That completes the overview of the Master Warning System. The next section will provide a general description of the Master Warning System. Introduction. The Master Warning System is the flight crew's primary indication of system operation and failure. The Central Warning Panel, which is located on the Center Instrument Panel, is the focal point of the warning system and contains the highest priority aircraft system indications. Indications are prioritized according to their significance. Red warnings are the highest priority, requiring immediate action. Amber warnings are a lower priority. White indications are for advisory purposes only. The Master Warning System monitors all warnings on the overhead panel and provides the flight crew with an accompanying warning on the Central Warning Panel. This makes it unnecessary for the crew to continually monitor the overhead panel. The Central Status Panel is fitted beneath the Central Warning Panel and provides system status and advisory indications only. The Central Warning Panel, Central Status Panel and Overhead Panel all have manual brightness control and test facilities. Central Warning Panel and Glare Shield Warnings. The normal condition of the panel is black until a warning is triggered. A warning will always illuminate at full brilliance for amber and red warnings, even if the panel has been fully dimmed. This is known as bright up. The attention getters on the glare shield are triggered by the corresponding colour warning on the Central Warning Panel. Pressing any of the attention getters will stop them flashing, cancel the audio tones, and return the panel to the preset dim level. This is true for all warnings except any fire warnings and the configuration warning system. Any subsequent new warning will cause existing amber and red warnings on the Central Warning Panel to become bright until the attention getters are pressed again. This is to remind crews of any previously existing problems. Warnings remain on the panel until the condition causing them is removed. Central Warning Panel warnings and indications. The importance of a warning is indicated by its colour and accompanying audio tone. A red warning is a hazardous fault condition which requires immediate crew action. When the indication appears, it illuminates at full brilliance due to the Bright Up facility. All red warnings have two ears to make them more obvious. The two red alert attention getters flash continuously, and a triple audio tone is repeated every 5 seconds. This continues until any of the attention getters are pressed, or until corrective action is taken. For a fire warning, the visual indications are the same, but the triple audio tone is replaced by a fire bell. The fire bell can only be cancelled by pressing a red attention getter. A configuration warning also has the same visual warnings, but the triple audio tone is replaced by an intermittent horn. This horn can only be cancelled by retarding the thrust levers to idle or taking action to correct the problem. An amber warning indicates a fault condition which is not immediately hazardous, but requires crew action when convenient. The warning illuminates at full brilliance due to the Bright Up facility, and the two amber caution attention getters flash continuously until cancelled. Amber warnings are divided into high category warnings, which have a single ear and a single non-repeated chime. Low category warnings, without ears or chimes. Park brake on is an exception. It does not trigger a Bright Up and does not cause the attention getters to flash. When a warning is given on the overhead or engine instrument panel, a repeater annunciator displaying an arrow on the central warning panel will direct the pilot's attention to the warning. White annunciators indicate system status. They are for advisory purposes only and require no pilot action. There is no associated Bright Up, attention getters or audio. Central Status Panel. The Central Status Panel is used to display white status and green advisory indications only. These will always be displayed at the preset dim level and have no Bright Up, attention getters or audio tones. Summary. Master Warning System Control. A variable dim control allows the brightness of the central warning panel and central status panel to be set according to the ambient light conditions. A failure of the central warning panel dim control is indicated by Master Warning System Dim Fail. A failure of the central status panel dim control has no indication. When the control switch is selected to override, both the central warning panel and central status panel dimming controls are bypassed, and indications are shown at full brightness only. The Push Test button allows all of the indications to be checked for filament failure. There are 2 filaments in each caption, and both sides must be checked for equal brightness. Operation of the Push Test button also operates the glare shield warnings and audio. The pull ground op position of the Push Test button is used on the ground to reduce unnecessary operation of the system and prevent overheating of the panels. It must only be used when the engines have been shut down. It suppresses the attention getters and single and triple chimes, and automatically dims indications on the central warning panel and central status panel to minimum brilliance. Because of their importance, the configuration horn and fire bell are not inhibited. A red light in the button warns the pilot that the master warning system has been suppressed. It can be deselected at any time by pushing the button in. If pull ground op is not deselected before flight, it will be electrically overridden by the weight on wheel system. The light will extinguish on takeoff to indicate that the system has reverted to normal operation. Overhead panel. A variable dim control is provided for the overhead panel annunciators. They will always illuminate at the brightness which has been set by the dim control. A failure of this dim control is indicated by overhead dim fail on the central warning panel. When the control switch is selected to override, the overhead panel dimming control is bypassed and indications are shown at full brightness only. The overhead annunciator test button allows all of the indications to be checked for filament failure. There are 2 filaments in each caption, and both sides must be checked for equal brightness. Transient warnings caused by the movement of valves or a change in system condition are shown on the overhead panel. These indications are known as not in position selected indications and indicate normal system operation. They do not trigger a system repeater on the central warning panel unless the indication remains lit for 10 seconds or more, showing that a fault exists. Amber takeoff inhibit. To prevent distractions during takeoff, amber warnings are displayed at the preset dim level without attention getters, audio tones or bright up. Red warnings are unaffected. The inhibit will take place when the speed is above 75 knots, provided that the aircraft has been on the ground for at least 20 seconds. It will last for 1 minute or until the aircraft has reached 1,200 feet above airfield level, whichever comes first. Pre-flight. On completion of this section, you should be able to carry out the checks required to prepare the master warning system for flight. The master warning system control switch is checked in the normal position before engines start. The master warning system dim knob is rotated to check that it controls the brightness of the annunciators. The master warning system push test button is pressed and held. The master warning system audio triple chime should sound every 5 seconds. All the annunciators on the central warning panel and central status panel should be at full brilliance with both filaments serviceable. The red alert and amber caution attention getters should be flashing. Any attention getter is pressed and released, which will cancel the audio and attention getters. The central warning panel annunciators dim, except master warning system dim fail and overhead dim fail, which remain at full brilliance. The master warning system test button is released. The master warning system control is set to override. All captions on both the central warning panel and central status panel increase to full brilliance. The switches return to normal and the annunciators should return to their previous level. The dim level is set as required. After checking the operation of the master warning system, the overhead panel annunciators are checked. The annunciator control should be at the normal position. The annunciator test button is pressed and held. All the overhead panel annunciators should be at full brilliance, with both filaments in each annunciator working. The annunciator test button is released and the overhead panel returns to its previous state. The annunciator dim knob is rotated and the brightness of the annunciators is checked. The annunciator control switch is set to override and the annunciators on the overhead panel increase to full brilliance. The annunciator control switch is returned to the normal position, which resets all the lit captions on the overhead panel to their previous level. The dim level can now be set as required. Pre-flight checks. On completion of this section, you should be able to carry out the checks required to prepare the master warning system for flight. Check that the Master Warning System control switch is selected to Normal. Rotate the Master Warning System dim knob and check that it controls the brightness of the lit annunciators. Press and hold the Master Warning System push test button and check that the audio triple chime is repeated every 5 seconds. Check that all the annunciators on the central warning panel and central status panel are lit at full brilliance and all filaments are serviceable. Check that the red alert and the amber caution attention getters are flashing. Press and release either of the Master Warning System red alert attention getters and check that the audio and attention getters are cancelled. Check that the central warning panel annunciators have dimmed, except the Master Warning System dim fail and overhead dim fail, and that the central status panel annunciators remain at full brilliance. Release the Master Warning System push test button and check that both panels return to their previous state. Set Master Warning System control to override and check that all lit captions on both the central warning panel and central status panel increase to full brilliance. Return the Master Warning System control switch to Normal and check that all captions return to their original dim level. Check that annunciator control is set to Normal. Press and hold the annunciator test button and check that all overhead panel annunciators are lit at full brilliance. Release the annunciator test button and check that the overhead panel returns to its previous state. Rotate the annunciator dim knob and check that it controls the brightness of the lit captions. Set annunciator control to override and check that all lit captions on the overhead panel increase to full brilliance. Return the annunciator control switch to Normal and check that all lit captions return to their dim level. In flight. The system should be monitored at regular intervals during flight to check the status and operation of aircraft systems. If a warning appears, appropriate action should be taken. What other warnings on the flight deck accompany the Intake 4 low pressure annunciator on the overhead panel? Post-flight. The master warning system is monitored for correct indications as systems are shut down. When the engines have been shut down, pull ground op should be selected. If we get an APU fire with pull ground op selected, how can the fire bell be cancelled? Failure of the dim control. The master warning system monitors the dim circuits for both the central warning panel and overhead panel. The dim fail warning does not illuminate until a failure of the dimming circuit has prevented a warning from being displayed. If overhead dim fail lights on the central warning panel, the dim control switch on the overhead annunciator panel is selected to override. The overhead panel annunciator will now be displayed at full brilliance, and the overhead dim fail warning will extinguish. When master warning system dim fail illuminates on the central warning panel, the operation of the attention getters, system captions, or audio tones is not affected. Why are the red attention getters and triple chime operating in this example? The dim control switch is set to override, and the hidden warning is displayed. There is no indication of a failure in the central status panel dim control. This can only be detected when the central status panel fails to display a status or advisory indication. With engine anti-ice selected on, we would expect to see engine A ice on the central status panel. Master warning system fault. A partial fault within the system is indicated by master warning system fault. The fault may affect the operation of the attention getters, audio tones, or some of the system repeater annunciators. It is therefore essential that both the central warning panel and the overhead panel are monitored at regular intervals for any new indications. Battery power level. At battery power level, the following master warning system functions are still available. Some central warning panel and central status panel annunciators are shown, and bright up. Left-hand red and amber attention getters. Single and triple chimes and fire bell.